The stars looked different through the viewing screen of the UNSS Horizon's Dream. Captain Minho stood on the bridge, watching the empty space around Europa. His ship was humanity's first real deep space exploration vessel, built to search for life beyond Earth's solar system. After 6 months of travel, they had found something, or rather something had found them. The alien ships appeared without warning. 12 vessels, each 3 times larger than Minho's ship, dropped out of faster-than-light travel and formed a circle around the human research station orbiting Jupiter's moon. Their hulls were dark purple, almost black, with strange symbols glowing along their sides. "Captain, they're hailing us," said the communications officer, her hands shaking slightly as she worked the controls. Minho straightened his uniform. This was the moment humanity had prepared for, hoped for, and feared. First contact with an alien species. Put them through. The screen flickered and showed a tall creature with gray skin and 4 eyes. It wore what looked like a military uniform covered in medals. When it spoke, the translation computer turned its words into Korean. "I am Commander Thelvan of the Valorian Empire. You are in violation of galactic law. All primitive species must register with the Empire and submit to our authority. Provide your planet's coordinates and strategic information immediately." Minho felt his stomach tighten. This wasn't the peaceful first contact humanity had hoped for. "I am Captain Minho of Earth. We mean no harm. We're explorers, not warriors. Perhaps we can discuss this diplomatically." Thelvan's 4 eyes blinked in sequence. "Diplomacy is for equals. You are a primitive species that has barely achieved fusion power. Submit your data, or face consequences." "I cannot give you Earth's location without consulting my government," Minho said calmly, though his heart was racing. "Give us time to contact our leaders." The alien commander's face twisted in what might have been anger. "You dare refuse the Valorian Empire? Let me show you the price of disobedience." The communication cut off. Minho watched in horror as one of the Valorian ships fired a bright blue beam at the research station. The station, which housed no people but years of scientific data, exploded into fragments. The pieces scattered across Europa's orbit like deadly confetti. "Battle stations," Minho shouted. "All hands to combat positions." His crew moved quickly. They had trained for this possibility, even though many thought it would never happen. The Horizon's Dream was designed as a science vessel, but Earth's military had insisted on including defensive weapons. Now Minho understood why. The Valorian ships moved toward them in formation. Minho's tactical officer, a young woman named Bora, called out readings. "They're charging weapons again, Captain. I think they're trying to disable us. Activate shields." "Prepare railguns," Minho ordered. His hands gripped the armrests of his captain's chair. "Target their lead ship's weapon systems." The Valorians fired first. Bright energy beams struck the Horizon's Dream shields, making the whole ship shake. Warning lights flashed across the bridge. But the shields held. The Valorians seemed surprised. "Return fire," Minho commanded. The railguns fired metal projectiles at incredible speed. The rounds hit the nearest Valorian ship's shields, creating ripples of energy. The alien ship slowed down, apparently damaged. Minho's ship had weapons designed by Earth's best military engineers, based on decades of theoretical research about space combat. For 47 minutes, the battle continued. The Horizon's Dream dodged and weaved through space, firing when it could, running when it couldn't. Minho's crew worked perfectly together. Bora predicted the Valorian movements with impressive accuracy. The engineering team kept the shields running even as power fluctuated, but they were outnumbered 12-1. Minho knew they couldn't win this fight. "Prepare for emergency jump," he ordered. "Set coordinates for Earth." "Captain, we're not ready yet," the navigator protested. "The jump drive needs another 3 minutes to charge." "We don't have 3 minutes," Minho said, watching 3 Valorian ships move to surround them. "Do it in 2. Bora fired a spread of missiles to create a diversion. The Valorians moved to intercept them, giving the Horizon's Dream precious seconds. The jump drive hummed louder and louder. The ship shook as another energy beam grazed their shields. "Jump drive ready," the navigator shouted. "Jump! Now!" Space twisted around them. The stars stretched into lines. Then everything went black as the ship entered faster-than-light travel. When the view cleared, they were back in Earth's solar system, far from the Valorian fleet. Minho let out a breath he didn't know he was holding. His crew cheered, but he couldn't celebrate. They had escaped, but the aliens knew humans existed now, and they didn't seem friendly. Behind them in space, Commander Thelvan watched the human ship disappear. He was embarrassed. A primitive species had fought his ships for almost an hour and escaped. His crew looked at him nervously. Thelvan made a decision. He opened a channel to Valorian High Command, a message that would travel through their network and reach the Empire's leaders in days. "This is Commander Thelvan. I have encountered an unknown species in Sector 447B. They call themselves humans from a planet called Earth. The species shows unexpected resistance to Imperial authority. They possess advanced defensive technology and refuse to submit. I request immediate reinforcements. Send a battle group to establish dominance. This should be a routine operation, but I want overwhelming force to ensure compliance." He closed the channel and looked at his officers. "We wait here. When reinforcements arrive in 3 weeks, we will teach these humans their place in the galaxy." The Horizon's Dream arrived at Earth 2 days later. Migno went immediately to the United Nations Space Defense Council. The council room was deep inside the UN headquarters in Geneva, a secure facility that few people knew existed. Admiral Jinho sat at the head of the table. He was an old man with gray hair and sharp eyes. He had fought in the Mars Rebellion 30 years ago, and had been preparing Earth's defense forces ever since. Around the table sat representatives from every major nation on Earth. Minho gave his report, showing the video footage of the encounter. The room was silent as they watched the research station explode and the brief battle that followed. Defense Minister Yuna spoke first. She was a woman in her 50s who had spent 20 years in the military before entering politics. "So we have 3 weeks before they return with more ships." "How many more?" "Based on their communication, probably 50 to 100 ships," Minho said. "Maybe more." They called it a battle group. President Hyunwoo, the leader of the United Earth government, leaned forward. "Admiral Jinho, can we defend against that many?" Jinho smiled, but it wasn't a happy smile. "We can do better than defend, Mr. President. We can show them that attacking Earth was their biggest mistake." He pressed a button, and holographic images filled the air above the table. Ships, thousands of ships, warships of every size and design, hidden in shipyards across the solar system. "For 70 years since we achieved fusion power, we've been preparing for this day," Jinho said. "Every nation on Earth contributed. We built these ships in secret, hoping we'd never need them. But if the aliens are bringing a battle group, we'll bring a fleet. We'll bring everything we have." Yuna looked at the images in awe. "How many ships?" 2,400 warships, Jinho replied. "All armed, all crewed, all ready to launch within 72 hours. President Hyunwoo stood up. "Then we mobilize. Send the order to all nations. Signal all commanders. If the aliens want a battle group, humanity will answer with a full war fleet. We didn't seek this conflict, but we'll fight it on our terms." Around the table, the representatives began nodding. Earth would not submit. Earth would not bow. Earth would fight. The Titan shipyards had been dark for decades. Hidden behind Saturn's rings, the massive facility floated in space like a sleeping giant. For 70 years, it had built warships in secret while the rest of humanity went about their daily lives. Most people on Earth didn't even know it existed. Engineer Yoonji stood in the control center, looking at the thousands of ships docked in the yards. Each one was perfect, maintained by automated systems and skeleton crews who kept the secret. Now, after all these years of waiting, the ships would finally wake up. "Begin activation sequence," Yoonji ordered. "Start with the destroyers, then the cruisers, then the carriers." Her team worked at their stations. Across the shipyards, lights began turning on. Ship after ship came alive. Their engines glowed. Their weapon systems powered up. Their shield generators hummed with energy. It was beautiful and terrifying at the same time. Yoonji had worked here for 15 years. Her father had worked here before her. Her grandfather had helped build the first ships. 3 generations of her family had kept this secret, waiting for the day when Earth might need defending. That day had come. A message appeared on her screen. It was from Admiral Jinho at Earth Command. "How long until the fleet is ready?" Yoonji checked her systems. 70 hours, Admiral. We're recalling all crew members from leave. Some are as far as Mars, but they'll make it in time." "Make it 60 hours, Jinho replied. "We need every advantage we can get." Yoonji smiled. Challenges like this were why she loved her job. "Yes, sir. We'll be ready." Across the solar system, thousands of military personnel received emergency recall orders. They dropped everything and headed for their ships. This was what they had trained for their entire careers. Captain Suri was on vacation at the lunar resort when her communicator beeped. She was young for a ship captain, only 32, but she was the best tactical officer in the fleet. She read the message and immediately headed for the shuttle port. Her ship, the destroyer Soul's Pride, was waiting at the Titan yards. Commander Wu Jin got his message while having dinner with his partner, Jisoo. She was a civilian scientist who didn't know about his real job. He told her he was a cargo ship pilot. Now he had to leave without explaining why. He kissed her goodbye, promised to return soon, and headed to his ship. The Shadow of Neptune was a stealth frigate designed for electronic warfare. It could hide from almost any sensor and disrupt enemy communications. Fleet Admiral Day was already at his post. He was 60 years old and had never commanded his ship in real combat. The super carrier Indomitable was his home. He knew every corridor, every system, every crew member. Soon he would lead them into the first real space battle in human history. At Earth Command, Defense Minister Yuna worked with Strategic Coordinator Minji to plan the battle. Minji was brilliant, a woman who could see patterns others missed. She spread holographic charts across the war room table. The Valorians will arrive here. Minji pointed at a spot near Neptune's orbit. They'll expect to find a primitive species begging for mercy. Instead, we'll surround them. Can we hide that many ships? Yuna asked. Our stealth technology is better than theirs, Minji explained. We can power down to minimal signatures and scatter across a huge area. When they arrive, we activate all at once. They won't know what hit them. Yuna nodded. And if it goes wrong? Then we retreat to defensive positions around Earth and Mars. But I don't think it will go wrong. We have advantages they don't expect. While the military prepared, Communications Officer Nari ran a different kind of operation. She was a specialist in alien technology, and Minho's ship had captured data during the brief battle. She studied the Valorian communication systems and found something interesting. Admiral, I can hack into their military network, she told Jinho. Not to steal information, but to plant some. Jinho raised an eyebrow. What kind of information? False intelligence. We make them think Earth is not a primitive world, but an outpost of some other powerful species. Create confusion. Buy time if we need it. Do it, Jinho ordered. Every advantage helps. Nari worked for 3 days straight, barely sleeping. She created fake communication logs, false sensor readings, and misleading reports. She planted them in the Valorian network through the captured data. When the Valorians analyzed the information from Thelvan's encounter, they would find confusing hints that Earth was more than it seemed. As the hours counted down, the human fleet assembled beyond Pluto's orbit. Captain Suri brought the Soul's Pride into formation. The destroyer was small but fast, armed with railguns that could punch through shields. She ran combat drills with her crew, making sure everyone knew their job perfectly. Commander Wu Jin positioned the Shadow of Neptune at the edge of the formation. His job was to blind the enemy sensors and jam their communications. He tested his electronic warfare systems repeatedly, finding ways to improve their effectiveness. Fleet Admiral Day stood on the bridge of the Indomitable, watching the fleet assemble through holographic displays. The supercarrier was massive, carrying 500 small fighter craft and serving as the mobile command center. From here, he would coordinate the entire battle. Admiral Jinho arrived on the Indomitable 3 days before the expected Valorian arrival. He called a meeting of all ship captains through video link. Thousands of faces appeared on screens around him. I know what you're thinking, Jinho began. You're thinking about your families, your friends, your lives back on Earth. You're wondering if we're doing the right thing. He paused and looked at each screen. I'm here to tell you that we are. The Valorians came to our home and destroyed our property. They demanded we submit to their empire. They threatened us with consequences. Well, they're about to learn what happens when you threaten humanity. The captains listened silently. Some were nervous. Some were excited. All were ready. We didn't ask for this fight, Jinho continued. We sent an exploration ship with a message of peace. They answered with violence. Now they're bringing reinforcements expecting us to surrender. Instead, they'll find 2,400 warships ready to defend our home. He straightened his uniform. Our plan is simple. We hide until they arrive. Then we reveal ourselves all at once and hit them hard. We show them that humanity is not prey. We are not victims. We are warriors when we need to be, and right now we need to be. Across the screens, captains began nodding. Some smiled. Others looked determined. They have better technology in some areas, Jinho admitted. They have more experience. They have conquered other species, but they don't have what we have. They don't have our adaptability. They don't have our creativity. They don't have our absolute refusal to bow to anyone. He raised his fist. In 3 days, the Valorians will arrive. They called for reinforcements. We'll show them what it means when humanity answers. Prepare your ships. Ready your crews. And remember, we fight not for conquest or glory. We fight for our homes, our families, and our freedom. The screens erupted in cheers. Jinho closed the channel and looked at Day, who stood beside him. Do you think we can win? Day asked quietly. Jinho looked out at the fleet, at the thousands of ships floating in the darkness of space. We have to. There's no other option. Over the next 3 days, the fleet made final preparations. Engineers checked every system twice. Weapons officers calibrated their targeting computers. Medical bays prepared for casualties. Cooks made sure everyone had good meals before the battle. Chaplains held services for those who wanted them. On the last day, Yunji transmitted a message from the Titan yards. All systems green across the fleet. You're as ready as we can make you. Bring them home safe, Admiral. Jinho stood on the bridge of the Indomitable as the deadline approached. Around him, his command crew worked quietly. Everyone knew their job. Everyone was ready. Admiral, sensors detect incoming FTL signatures, the sensor officer announced. It's them. Battle stations, Jinho ordered calmly. Signal all ships. Power down to stealth mode. Let them come to us, and then we show them why you don't threaten Earth. The human fleet disappeared from sensors, scattered across millions of kilometers of space. They waited in silence as the Valorian reinforcements arrived. High Admiral Kortvek stood on the bridge of the Dominion's will, feeling confident. In his 300 years of military service, he had subjugated 17 different species. This mission was supposed to be routine. A primitive species needed to be taught their place in the galactic order. His battle group consisted of 48 warships, more than enough to overwhelm any resistance. The ships emerged from faster-than-light travel at the edge of Earth's solar system. Their sensors swept the area looking for the human vessels. Nothing on sensors, High Admiral, his tactical officer reported. The system appears quiet. Kortvex examined the data from Commander Thelvan's encounter. The human ship had been surprisingly capable, but it was just one vessel, one lucky primitive ship. His fleet would crush any resistance in minutes. Broadcast surrender demands on all frequencies, Kortvex ordered. Tell them they have 1 standard hour to submit to the Valorian Empire. If they refuse, we will demonstrate our power. The message transmitted toward Earth. No response came back. Minutes passed. Then an hour. Still nothing. Kortvex grew irritated. They're trying to test my patience. Helmsman, proceed deeper into the system. We'll approach their planet and force them to acknowledge us. The Valorian fleet moved forward in a broad wedge formation, designed to look overwhelming. They passed the orbit of Neptune, their sensors still finding nothing but empty space and a few automated stations. Far away, on the human listening post called Far Eye, sensor operator Bora watched the Valorian fleet advance. She was the same Bora who had served with Captain Minho on the Horizon's Dream. Now she had a new job tracking enemy movements. Admiral, they're entering the trap zone, Bora transmitted to Jinho. All ships are within the engagement sphere. Excellent, Jinho replied from the Indomitable. Signal all vessels. Prepare to power up on my mark. Across millions of kilometers of space, human ships waited in darkness. They had been powered down for hours, invisible to Valorian sensors. Their crews sat at their stations, hands on controls, hearts pounding. This was it. The moment they had trained for. Jinho watched his tactical display. The Valorian fleet was perfectly positioned, surrounded on all sides by human ships they couldn't see. He took a deep breath. All ships.
Power up now!
2,400 warships activated simultaneously. Their engines blazed to life. Their shields snapped on. Their weapons charged. In seconds, the Valorians went from seeing an empty system to being surrounded by an overwhelming force. On the Dominion's will, alarms screamed. The tactical officer stared at his screen in disbelief. High Admiral, we're detecting thousands of vessels. They're all around us. Kortvex felt his confidence vanish. This was impossible. The intelligence said these humans were primitive. Where did they get this many ships? His mind raced through options. They were surrounded, outnumbered, trapped. Raise shields. All weapons ready, he shouted. Transmit emergency, Captain Suri fired the first shot. The Soul's Pride had been waiting for this moment. Her railgun sent metal projectiles screaming through space at incredible speed. They hit a Valorian destroyer's shields, and the shields collapsed under the concentrated fire. The second volley punched through the destroyer's hull. The enemy ship began venting atmosphere. First kill confirmed, Suri said calmly to her crew. Target their next ship. Keep firing. Commander Wu Jin activated his electronic warfare suite aboard the Shadow of Neptune. The stealth frigate sent out powerful jamming signals that scrambled Valorian communications and sensors. Half the Valorian fleet suddenly went blind, unable to coordinate with each other. Jamming effective, Wu Jin reported. Their command network is down. They can't talk to each other. Fleet Admiral Day coordinated the assault from the Indomitable. The huge carrier launched wave after wave of small fighter craft. They swarmed around the larger Valorian ships like angry hornets, forcing the enemy to split their attention between big threats and small ones. Focus fire on their command ships, Day ordered. Break their leadership and they'll fall apart. The battle was chaos. Human tactics relied on swarm warfare, using their superior numbers to overwhelm individual targets. Dozens of ships would attack one Valorian vessel, destroying its shields through concentrated fire, then moving to the next target. The Valorians tried to form defensive positions, but the jamming made coordination impossible. Admiral Jinho watched from the Indomitable's bridge as the plan unfolded perfectly. The Valorians were experienced warriors, but they had never faced an enemy like this. They expected a primitive species with a few ships. Instead, they found a coordinated military force that had planned this engagement down to the smallest detail. Admiral, the Valorian flagship is trying to retreat, his tactical officer reported. Let them try, Jinho said, but make them pay for every meter. The Dominion's will attempted to break through the human encirclement. Kortvex ordered his most powerful ships to create an opening. They concentrated their fire on one section of the human line, destroying a human cruiser and damaging 2 destroyers. But for every human ship they hit, 3 Valorian vessels took damage in return. The math was simple and brutal. The humans had overwhelming numbers and better coordination. The battle was already lost. The Valorians just hadn't accepted it yet. Captain Suri's destroyer took a direct hit from a Valorian energy beam. Her ship shook violently. Sparks flew from control panels. 2 crew members were injured. But the Soul's Pride held together. Damage report, Suri called out. Shields at 40%. Port railgun offline. But we can still fight, Captain. Suri gritted her teeth. Then we fight. Target that cruiser. All weapons fire. The destroyer and 2 other human ships focused on a Valorian cruiser. Their combined fire was too much. The cruiser's shields failed, then its hull breached. The ship went dark and began tumbling through space. Commander Wu Jin adjusted his jamming frequencies, staying ahead of Valorian attempts to restore communications. His stealth ship darted around the battlefield, impossible to track, making the Valorians see ghosts on their sensors. Some Valorian ships fired at empty space, wasting ammunition on phantom targets. 4 hours into the battle, the Valorian formation had completely collapsed. 22 of their ships were destroyed. 17 more were so badly damaged they could barely move. The rest were trying desperately to escape. High Admiral Kortvex sat in his command chair watching his fleet die around him. The Dominion's will had taken heavy damage. Half his crew was dead or injured. His tactical displays showed nothing but red warning indicators. High Admiral, we must retreat, his second-in-command pleaded. We can't win this, Kortvex wanted to argue. He wanted to rally his forces and turn the battle around. But he was a military professional, not a fool. This battle was over. If they stayed, his entire fleet would be destroyed. Signal all ships, he said quietly. Full retreat. Everyone make for the jump point. The surviving Valorian vessels broke formation and ran. They scattered in all directions, each captain trying to save their own ship. The human fleet pursued, destroying 2 more ships that were too slow. Admiral Jinho watched the Valorians flee. He could order his ships to pursue and destroy every single one. But that wasn't his goal. He wanted to send a message, not commit genocide. All ships cease fire, Jinho ordered. Let them go, but make sure our message reaches their commander. He opened a direct communication channel to the Dominion's will. Kortvex's face appeared on the screen. The alien looked defeated, exhausted. High Admiral Kortvex, Jinho said calmly. You came to our home with threats. You demanded we submit to your empire. This is our answer. We let you live today so you can deliver a message to your leaders. Kortvek stared at him silently. Tell them that humanity desires peace. Jinho continued. We don't want war. We don't want conquest. But we will never submit. We will never bow. If you send another fleet, we'll destroy it too. And next time we won't show mercy. Jinho closed the channel. Around him, his command crew remained silent. They had won. Against all odds, against a species with centuries of military experience, humanity had won. Status report. Jinho requested. 37 ships destroyed. The tactical officer reported. 92 damaged but repairable. Casualty count still coming in. Jinho closed his eyes briefly. 37 ships. Thousands of personnel. Thousands of families that would receive terrible news. The victory felt heavy. Signal the fleet, he said. Begin rescue operations for any Valorian survivors. We may be warriors, but we're also human. We don't leave people to die in space. Captain Suri coordinated the rescue effort. Human ships collected escape pods and rescued Valorian crew members from damaged vessels. It was strange, saving the lives of people who had tried to kill them minutes before. But it was the right thing to do. As the Valorian survivors were brought aboard human ships, they looked around in confusion. They expected to be executed or imprisoned. Instead, they received medical treatment and were given food and water. One young Valorian soldier asked his human guard, "Why do you help us?" "We attacked you," the guard shrugged. "Because that's what humans do. We fight when we must, but we don't abandon wounded enemies. Maybe your people could learn something from that." The Valorian High Command watched the battle footage in stunned silence. The holographic display showed their fleet being torn apart by thousands of human ships, ships that shouldn't exist, technology that supposedly primitive species shouldn't have. Grand Marshal Thokran, the head of Valorian military operations, replayed the footage for the third time. He was an old warrior who had led armies for 200 years. He recognized skill when he saw it. These humans weren't lucky. They were prepared, trained, dangerous. This changes everything, Political Commander Velta said nervously. She was responsible for maintaining the Empire's image of strength. If word spreads that a primitive species defeated us, our subjugated worlds might rebel. Then word must not spread, Thokran replied coldly. We mobilized the 7th Armada, 350 warships, including our best dreadnoughts. We crush the humans completely and restore our reputation. Velta shook her head. Perhaps we should negotiate. The humans said they want peace. Peace? Thokran slammed his fist on the table. They humiliated us. They destroyed 22 ships and damaged countless others. If we negotiate now, we look weak. No, we attack with overwhelming force. We show the galaxy that no one defeats the Valorian Empire without consequences. The council voted. 7 members supported war. Only Veltas voted for diplomacy. The decision was made. The 7th Armada would mobilize within 6 weeks. Back on Earth, the victory celebration was brief. Admiral Jinho called an emergency meeting of the Defense Council. Captain Minho attended, along with Defense Minister Yuna and President Hyun-woo. Intelligence Officer Kyung presented her analysis. She was a specialist in alien military structures, and she had been studying captured Valorian data for weeks. The fleet we defeated was only 5% of Valorian military power, Kyung explained, showing charts and numbers. The Empire controls 47 star systems. They have over 7,000 warships total. We won one battle, but we're far from winning a war. The room fell silent. Their great victory suddenly felt small. What will they do? President Hyun-woo asked. They'll send more ships, Kyung said. Much more. Probably their 7th Armada, which is their primary strike force. At least 300 vessels, maybe more. They'll want overwhelming superiority this time. Defense Minister Yuna looked at Admiral Jinho. Can we win against those numbers? Jinho studied the projections. It will be close. Very close. We have the tactical advantage and better coordination, but they have experience and heavier weapons. If we fight defensively around Earth, we might hold them off, but casualties will be severe. Strategic Coordinator Minji entered the room carrying data tablets. She looked excited, which seemed strange given the grim situation. I have an alternative strategy, Minji announced. We don't wait for them to reach Earth. We take the fight to them. Everyone stared at her. Explain, President Hyun-woo said. Minji activated a holographic star map. Our intelligence suggests they'll assemble their fleet here in the Krell Nebula. 5 light-years from Earth. It's a standard staging area for major operations. If we jump our entire fleet directly to that location, we catch them before they're fully organized. That's insane, Kyung protested. Jumping that many ships that far with that much precision? The margin for error is tiny. But possible, Minji countered. We have better FTL technology than they realize. Our navigation systems can handle it, and if we succeed, we fight them on our terms, not theirs. Admiral Jinho looked at the map, calculating risks and benefits. It's bold, aggressive, dangerous, but it follows a key principle. Seize the initiative. Make the enemy react to us instead of us reacting to them. We'd be leaving Earth defended by only reserve forces, Yuna pointed out. If the plan fails and they get past our fleet, Earth is vulnerable. If the plan fails, Earth is doomed anyway, Jinho said bluntly. This gives us the best chance of decisive victory. President Hyunwoo looked at each person in the room, reading their faces. Finally, he made his decision. We do it. Prepare the fleet for offensive operations. We take the war to them. Over the next 6 weeks, humanity mobilized its entire industrial capacity. Engineer Yoonji and her teams worked day and night at the Titan yards, upgrading ships with technology learned from the first battle. They had captured Valorian equipment and discovered something important. Their computer systems are biological, Yoonji explained to Admiral Jinho. They use living neural networks instead of electronic processors. It makes them powerful but vulnerable to certain electromagnetic frequencies. Can we weaponize that? Jinho asked. Commander Woojin already is. He's building enhanced jamming systems specifically designed to disrupt their biocomputers. It won't destroy their ships, but it will disable their systems temporarily. Across Earth, military recruitment stations were overwhelmed with volunteers. People wanted to defend their world. The fleet expanded from 2,400 ships to 2,800 ships as emergency construction accelerated. Captain Suri spent her time training new captains. The Soul's Pride had been repaired and upgraded. She pushed her crew hard, running simulation after simulation. They had won once. They needed to win again. Commander Woojin worked with civilian scientists, including his partner Jisoo. He finally told her the truth about his job. She was shocked but proud. Together, they developed the biocomputer disruption system that might give humanity a crucial advantage. Fleet Admiral Day prepared the Indomitable for the most ambitious operation in human history. His carrier would coordinate over 2,800 ships across light years of space. The complexity was staggering. One mistake could scatter the fleet across the galaxy. Meanwhile, Communications Officer Nari conducted a secret operation. Using quantum-encrypted channels, she made contact with species living under Valorian rule. She shared footage of humanity's victory. The message spread through underground networks. A primitive species had defeated the mighty Valorians. Hope began growing in occupied worlds. Several species sent secret messages to Earth, pledging quiet support. 3 days before the operation, Admiral Jinho gathered his senior commanders on the Indomitable. Captain Suri was there, along with Woojin, Dee, and dozens of other officers. In 3 days, we execute Operation Spearhead, Jinho began. We'll jump the entire fleet to the Krell Nebula and engage the Valorian 7th Armada before they can organize. This is the most dangerous military operation humanity has ever attempted. He looked around the room. Some of you won't come back. Some of your ships will be destroyed. Some of your crew will die. That's the reality of war. But if we succeed, we end this conflict decisively. We prove that humanity cannot be intimidated or conquered. Captain Suri raised her hand. Admiral, what if the intelligence is wrong? What if they're not assembling at the Krell Nebula? Then we adapt, Jinho said simply. We've prepared contingency plans. But our intelligence is solid. They will be there, Commander Woojin asked. What are our rules of engagement? Do we show mercy like last time? Jinho paused. We're not murderers. We'll accept surrenders. We'll rescue survivors. But make no mistake, this is total war. We fight until they acknowledge our sovereignty or until they can't fight anymore. The meeting ended. Officers returned to their ships. Families said goodbye. Engineers made final checks. The countdown began. On the last night before departure, Admiral Jinho visited the memorial wall at Earth Command. Names of people who died in the first battle were engraved there. He found the name of Captain Minho's tactical officer, who died during the rescue operations. I promise you won't be the last, Jinho whispered to the wall. But I promise your deaths won't be meaningless. We're fighting for something bigger than ourselves." He touched the cold metal and walked away. The next morning, the fleet departed in waves. First the destroyers, then the cruisers, then the carriers and dreadnoughts. They assembled at the rally point beyond Pluto, checking systems one last time. Engineer Yunji transmitted from the Titan yards. "All ships are green. FTL drives synchronized. Navigation coordinates locked. Good hunting, Admiral." Jinho stood on the bridge of the Indomitable, surrounded by his command crew. Fleet Admiral Day stood beside him. Around them, holographic displays showed all 2,800 ships in formation. "This is it," Jinho said quietly. "Signal all ships. Prepare for jump." Across the fleet, crews gripped their stations. Engines hummed with power. Space began to twist around each ship. "All vessels report ready," the communications officer announced. Jinho took a deep breath. "Execute jump. All ships." 2,800 warships vanished from the solar system, jumping through folded space toward the Krell Nebula, toward the waiting Valorian fleet, toward the battle that would determine humanity's place in the galaxy. The Krell Nebula was beautiful. Clouds of purple and blue gas floated through space, lit by distant stars. Inside the nebula, the Valorian 7th Armada was assembling for their attack on Earth. Grand Marshal Thokran stood on the bridge of his command ship, the massive battleship Eternal Supremacy. Around him, 350 warships took their positions. Dreadnoughts, cruisers, destroyers, carriers, the largest military force the Valorian Empire had assembled in 50 years. "Final preparations are 90% complete," his tactical officer reported. "We'll be ready to depart for the human homeworld in 4 hours." Thokran nodded with satisfaction. This time there would be no mistakes. They would arrive at Earth with overwhelming force and crush all resistance. The humans would learn that defying the Empire had consequences. Then space exploded with light. 2,800 human warships appeared simultaneously, dropping out of FTL in perfect formation directly in front of the Valorian fleet. The precision was impossible. The audacity was stunning. The Valorians stared in shock. "Battle stations," Thokran shouted. "How did they find us?" His sensors officer was frantically checking readings. "Unknown, Marshal. But they're here. Thousands of them. They're everywhere!" On the Indomitable, Admiral Jinho allowed himself a small smile. The jump had worked perfectly. Every ship arrived exactly where it should be. They had caught the Valorians completely unprepared. "All ships open fire," Jinho ordered calmly. "Engage at will." The second battle for humanity's freedom began. Captain Suri's destroyer Soul's Pride led a squadron straight at a Valorian dreadnought. The massive enemy ship was 4 times her size, bristling with weapons. But it was still organizing its defenses, crew members still rushing to battle stations. "All railguns target their shield generators," Suri commanded. "Concentrate fire." 6 destroyers fired as one. Metal projectiles slammed into the dreadnought's shields at incredible speed. The shields flickered and collapsed. A second volley struck the ship's hull, tearing through armor and destroying weapon batteries. The dreadnought returned fire, its energy beams destroying 1 human destroyer instantly. But the remaining ships pressed their attack, and the massive Valorian ship began taking catastrophic damage. Commander Wujin activated his new electronic warfare system aboard the Shadow of Neptune. The enhanced jammers sent out precisely tuned electromagnetic pulses designed to disrupt Valorian biocomputers. The effect was immediate and devastating. Across the Valorian fleet, ship systems began failing. Weapons went offline, shields collapsed, navigation systems malfunctioned. Some ships fired at their own allies as their targeting computers went haywire. "The exploit is working," Wujin reported excitedly. "Their biological systems are crashing across the fleet." Fleet Admiral Day coordinated the assault from the Indomitable. The supercarrier launched wave after wave of fighter craft while directing the larger ships to focus on key targets. The nebula's radiation interfered with long-range sensors, creating chaos that favored humanity's more adaptable tactical systems. The battle quickly spread across hundreds of thousands of kilometers. The nebula's gas clouds provided cover, allowing human ships to attack from unexpected angles. The Valorians tried to form defensive lines, but the biocomputer disruption made coordination impossible. Hours passed. The battle raged with terrible intensity. Human ships were destroyed. The destroyer Morning Star exploded when its reactor was hit. The carrier Pacific Guardian took heavy damage and had to retreat. The frigate Kilimanjaro disappeared in a ball of fire when a Valorian missile struck its ammunition storage, but for every human ship lost, 2 Valorian vessels were disabled or destroyed. The numbers were grinding the Valorians down. Captain Suri's soul's pride took another hit. Her ship was battered, shields gone, hull breached in 3 places. Half her crew was injured, but she kept fighting. "Captain, we should fall back," her first officer pleaded. "Not yet," Suri said through gritted teeth. "One more target. That cruiser is damaged. We can finish it." The destroyer made one final attack run, firing everything it had left. The Valorian cruiser tried to evade but was too slow. The human weapons found their mark and the cruiser broke apart. "Now we fall back," Suri said, allowing herself to slump in her chair. "Get us to the rally point." 18 hours into the battle, the tide had clearly turned. The Valorian 7th Armada was in ruins. Over 100 ships were destroyed. Another 100 were too damaged to fight. The remainder were scattered across the nebula, unable to coordinate or retreat effectively. Grand Marshal Tokran sat in his command chair, watching his fleet die around him. The Eternal Supremacy had taken terrible damage. Bodies floated through corridors. Fires burned on multiple decks. The great battleship that had never been defeated was now a crippled wreck. His tactical officer approached hesitantly. "Marshal, we must surrender. We cannot win this," Tokran wanted to refuse. His pride demanded he fight to the end. But he was looking at his crew, at young soldiers who would die for nothing if he continued. He thought about the 17 species he had conquered in his career, and realized he had become exactly what he hated: a blind warrior who valued pride over wisdom. "Open a channel to the human flagship," Thokran said quietly. Admiral Jinho's face appeared on his screen. The human admiral looked tired but calm. "Grand Marshal Thokran," Jinho said, "I'm listening." "I request a ceasefire," Thokran replied, the words painful in his mouth. "You've won. We cannot continue." Jinho was silent for a moment. "Your fleet attacked our system first. Then you came back with reinforcements. Now you bring an entire armada. When does it end?" "It ends now," Thokran said. "I will recommend to the High Command that we negotiate a formal peace treaty. No more attacks. No more demands for submission. Recognition of your sovereignty." Jinho studied the alien commander. "And if your High Command refuses? Then they can send someone else to fight you, because I won't," Thokran said honestly. "I've learned my lesson. Humanity is not a species to be conquered. You're warriors who fight for something we've forgotten: freedom." Admiral Jinho nodded slowly. "Ceasefire accepted. Begin rescue operations for your wounded. We'll establish neutral zones for medical ships. And Marshal, thank you for choosing wisdom over pride. Not all commanders would." Over the next 3 weeks, humans and Valorians negotiated the Treaty of Krell on neutral ground. Defense Minister Yuna led the human delegation. Political Commander Veltas, who had wanted diplomacy from the beginning, represented the Valorians. The treaty was simple. The Valorian Empire recognized Earth's complete sovereignty. All Valorian military forces would withdraw from human-claimed space, including a buffer zone around the Sol system. Trade relations would be established. Technology would be shared on mutually beneficial terms. Most importantly, the Valorians agreed to acknowledge that species had the right to self-determination. It was a fundamental change in their imperial philosophy. News of the treaty spread across the galaxy. 4 subjugated species immediately requested Earth's help negotiating their own independence. The balance of power in the region had shifted completely. On Earth, the victory celebration was bittersweet. 450 ships had been lost. 125,000 people had died in the 2 battles. Memorial services were held across the planet. Captain Suri attended the funeral for her crew members who died aboard the Soul's Pride. She stood in her dress uniform, tears on her face as names were read aloud. Admiral Jinho gave a speech at the Unified Memorial, a massive monument built to honor those who fell. "We didn't want this war. We sent a peaceful exploration ship into space hoping to make friends. Instead, we found enemies. But we proved something important. Humanity will never surrender our freedom. Not to anyone. Not ever." President Hyunwoo announced the formation of the Terran Federation, uniting Earth's nations under a single spacefaring government. "We go forward as one species, one people, one voice in the galaxy." Engineer Yunji oversaw construction of Earth's first true starbase at the solar system's edge. The facility would serve as both a defensive position and a gateway for peaceful exploration. Communications Officer Nari opened Earth's first embassy on the Helkan homeworld, representing humanity to other species. Defense Minister Yuna was elected the first President of the Terran Federation in a landslide vote. Admiral Jinho was promoted to Supreme Commander of Terran Defense Forces. He stood in the new command center on Luna, watching new recruits train. They were learning the lessons humanity had paid for in blood: be prepared, be united, and never underestimate anyone. 5 years passed. The galaxy changed. More species gained independence from the Valorian Empire. Trade networks formed. Cultural exchanges happened. Humanity spread to 12 new star systems, building colonies and research stations. Then Grand Marshal Thokran, now a political reformer in the Valorian government, contacted Admiral Jinho with an unexpected request. "We face a rebellion in our outer territories," Thokran explained. "A militaristic faction that refuses to accept our new policies. They want to return to the old ways of conquest and domination. We need help." Jinho looked at his command staff. Captain Suri, now a Commodore commanding a battle group.